He was the president of the United Family Hospital during the SARS crisis in 2003 through early 2005. He holds a PhD in economics from Harvard University, an MA in philosophy and politics from Balliol College, the University of Western Ontario, Canada. Andrew advocates the changes that will unlock Nigeria's economic and human potential. Ladies and gentlemen, Dr. Andrew Nevin.
Please join me in applauding. You can do that in the chat box as we welcome our second keynote speaker, Dr. Andrew S. Nevin. He's Financial Services Leader and Chief Economist, PwC Nigeria, for the second keynote session. Over to you, Dr. Nevin.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can hear you. At least I can.
All right, fantastic. No, what a kind introduction, and great to see so many friends here on that. Very excited about the AOT this year. I mean, I think we missed last year because of COVID. So I'm going to speak, I guess, a little bit. I have slides like people like me always do, but let me just start out by making a few introductory comments here. And to begin with, I mean, people are aware I'm sort of the chief economist of PwC Nigeria. And I think a lot of economic watchers of Nigeria are often express negative sentiments. But I want to say to this group that I am I just arrived for the first time in Nigeria, December 1st, 2008. So now it's 13 years. I am more positive on the future of Nigeria than I ever have been. And this is despite, I mean, I don't speak about all of the challenges that we know. What we try to do at PwC is look beyond and look a little bit deeper and see what's going on. And let me give you two reasons why I'm so optimistic, or three reasons why I'm so optimistic about Nigeria. The first reason is something that's changed enormously over the last 5 or 6 years in the country, is the real recognition and the action that a lot of what needs to happen in the country has to happen at the state and local level. And you look around, so 10 years ago, you didn't have states stepping up and really, apart from Lagos, really stepping up and driving their own destiny. And now we look around the country and we see state after state, governor after governor, even local LGAs getting involved in making real progress. Edo State, Ekiti State, Kaduna State, just Nasarawa, just Ogun, and of course Lagos on that. And that's really, really heartening. The second reason I'm just so optimistic about Nigeria is every day I am shown the energy of the young people. I mean, one of the things that's been very important to me in my time in Nigeria is to participate in the kind of journey of many Nigerians in many spheres, in NGOs, in education, but also in building businesses. And that energy level is irrepressible. There's no force on the planet that can dampen that enthusiasm. And the third reason I'm optimistic, and of course is the topic for today, Art of Technology 3.0, is that we are leapfrogging in so many places using technology to solutions for the 21st century. So we're not doing things in old ways. They're not possible, and we cannot deliver education at the scale that's required in the old way. We cannot deliver healthcare required in the old way. And people are coming up with solutions that are appropriate for our circumstances on that. And that really gives me tremendous optimism. And I'm just, as I said, I'm really tired of this kind of negative narrative about Nigeria. I really feel like the next decade is going to be amazing. And at the center of that is going to be the technology on there. So thank you so much for that. So let me share a few slides that I have today, just to situate what we're talking about on the criticality of the criticality of technology on there. So let me see if it comes up. There we go. So the topic I was given is, using startups for the economic growth of in Africa and Nigeria, and of course of Lagos itself. I have to confess, I I lived for Lagos for 10 years. Really was my home. Is the place I've lived the longest as an adult. But I have now actually decamped to Abuja. I just ended up with spending more and more time working with government entities, which also encourages me. And I'll talk about one of the things that's going on at the government level that's now becoming public that's really critical for technology. So I'm now based in Abuja, but I still go to Lagos frequently. And I said, I really feel like it's my. But let me just start by putting some numbers up that are really encouraging in this. This is just the rising tech landscape. There you can see this is the number of companies that are getting significant venture capital funding on there, and yeah, I mean we're just doing very well in Africa. We're the leading tech center in Africa. Lagos, of course, Yaba, in fact, is of course the center of that. It's happening around the continent. It needs to happen around the continent, but we also want to see Nigeria being number one. You can see the total amount raised there. Almost 1.4 billion last year, which is fantastic. But the thing that's amazing to me is you can start to see on this slide that the tech startup, the amount of capital being raised is actually bigger than other forms of FDI. I mean, this is a significant amount of money. It's really changing the way the country works. I think it's more money than if you actually look at, say, for example, international development aid. The tech funding, which is really to build businesses and build things that scale, is more than the amount of the aid that actually reaches the country. There's about $2.5 billion in aid in Nigeria, if I understand the numbers right. But more than half of it doesn't really ever reach the country. Whereas here we've got 1.3 trillion, sorry, 1.3, thinking in Naira terms, 1.233 billion in venture tech funding, which is just fantastic. And this number is only going to continue to grow. You can see it dropped off in 2020 because of COVID. But even though COVID's not finished, people have come back, and it's just going to accelerate over the next few years on that. Now, the other thing I think that's really encouraging to me, though, is, and I'll go in a little more detail in my time here, is that we're seeing investments across different fields. I mean, I myself, many of my clients are in the financial sector, and I'm very familiar with the fintech sector, and there's nothing wrong with the fintech sector. In fact, I need to make a plea to everyone on the session today. I'm actually with the CBN today on an eNaira. Working on the eNaira issue. eNaira is just a fantastic innovation for Nigeria, and it's fantastic to see Nigeria be on the cutting edge of central bank digital currencies. And I would just like to encourage everyone on this in this session today to embrace the eNaira, either in the way you do your own payments, but also, if you're building a business that's in the fintech space, how do you incorporate the eNaira and build on top of it? And it's fantastic to see the BVN was a great innovation. The eNaira is a great innovation. The SEC is going to have tokenized digital assets very soon. We really are on the verge of perhaps having the world's most advanced financial system, and it's just very encouraging. So please embrace the eNaira. But beyond fintech, what really encourages me is people are using technology to solve problems in different areas. So you can see in the top, for example, here we just break out into different sectors, the different startups. And of course, this is not the totality of it. There's also ed tech, ag tech, et cetera. But I mean, energy, e-commerce, logistics, Kobo 360, using technology to really leapfrog and find solutions to Africans' problems. And let me just jump ahead because I want to make sure I get through some of these slides. But one area that really excites me is the circular economy. So you think about, when we typically think of technology, as I said, we often think of fintechs, maybe medtech, edtech, which I'll talk about in a minute. But one of the areas that I'm really excited to see so much progress in is the circular economy, and particularly the problem of dealing with waste. It's not a glamorous area on that, but increasingly people are using technology to be able to address it. So here's some statistics up across the top in terms of solid waste generation. Of course, there's other issues in waste. It's not just solid waste, it's also the sanitation and water supply, et cetera. But in terms of the solid waste, we have huge generation of it. We're only collecting about 55% of it. We're only recycling about 4% of it. And 90% of it is being disposed of in unstructured ways, in uncontrolled dumps or land sites, as it says, dump sites on that. And you can see, some numbers on the bottom in terms of the amount of millions of tons of years of waste generation, the composition of it. Now, this for me is a fantastic opportunity for technology to be applied to solve this kind of problem. So this is like a real problem. It involves the physical world. It requires technology. It requires new ways of thinking about it. And we see all around Africa the emergence of these startups that are taking it on. And this is what really encourages me when people try to find solutions to Africans' challenges in practical ways. So we've got some companies that are doing waste to energy. We've got some companies that do use technology to control the waste issue. We've got companies that take waste and turn it into construction material. We've got companies that take waste and turn it into useful products for agriculture. We've got other companies that are turning waste into clothing on that. So it's just amazing to see that and that energy level around it. And just a few examples of it. There's a company in Uganda producing paper bags. I mean, plastic, as we know, is a huge problem across the world. It is a disaster in Lagos, the use of single-use plastic bags on there. So this company in Uganda trying to solve that problem. In Ethiopia, they're doing something that I really think I'd love to see come to Lagos, which is the first waste to energy plant in that. So you've got a plant that is eliminating over 80% of the waste in Addis Ababa, and producing 25% of the power for the city on that. You've got EcoPost Kenya, which is creating fencing posts over waste material, creating more than almost 600 jobs in that. And then you also have Taka Taka, which is again taking the solid waste and recycling it and reducing Kenya's gas emissions. So this kind of innovation, and all these companies are driven by kind of young Africans. In circular economy, I think there's huge opportunities, and I know there's a few companies in Lagos that are participating in circular economy. I would like to see more and more done on the waste issue, the sanitation issue in the city, in Lagos on that. Energy, I mean, no question that the energy innovation, particularly around renewables, is incredible in Nigeria and Africa. But of course, Lagos is actually the hub for it. Many people on the call today or on the session will be familiar with All On, run by Dr. Wiebe Boer, of course, who grew up in Jos on that. So actually, we are in Lagos the most innovative hub for solar energy on the planet on that. But around the continent, you're also seeing other kinds of innovations. Here's a few companies that are doing interesting things. I mean, I think one of the things about Innovex in Uganda is, of course, it's using IoT technology, Internet of Things, which again is another technology that's hugely valuable in our context in Africa. On that, Liberia, Sierra Leone, we have Easy Solar, small scale solar as an example on there. And in Nigeria, we have so many different companies that we could cite as doing. Starsight is doing one. I actually am involved in a startup, Icon, which uses a unique technology here. But today we chose Quaint Energy as the one that we would sort of highlight on that, on how to bring clean energy. Again, I talked earlier about the fact there's so much progress in the States. Here's a project that's bringing clean energy to rural Nigeria in Kaduna, which I really, really applaud on that. But Lagos is actually the center of the world for solar innovation, small scale solar innovation right now. It's very exciting. EdTech, very exciting to me. I have a confession to make. I think it's still in my biography, but I'm a failed entrepreneur. I had an EdTech company in China, 2005, 2008. The reason that I'm actually in Nigeria was my EdTech company failed. And I guess it's an important lesson for all of us. People will survive failure. There's nothing wrong with trying something out that could solve an important problem. And, in many cases, you may not succeed, but life still goes on. So my EdTech company failed. But I still believe in EdTech is just really critical. Because again, in our context, it's not possible to deliver education on the required scale without EdTech on there. So there's a lot going on in this area. ULesson is based actually in Abuja here. Shim Sagaya is the CEO of that. Many of you may be familiar with him. He's one of Nigeria's most successful serial entrepreneurs, was the founder of Conga back in the day. Now his new startup is ULesson, which is doing fantastically well here in Abuja on there. But a couple that we're highlighting here is the one in Kenya, which uses feature phones, and that to me is very exciting, because one of the things, of course, we know that is a challenge in EdTech or health tech is if we assume that someone has a smartphone. That's not an accurate assumption. More than 60% of the phones in Nigeria are feature phones. So someone then trying to solve a problem for Africa who says, actually, we can deliver education. We can figure out how to deliver education to over 1 million young Kenyans using a feature phone. It's just amazing. Then we've got lots of companies around that are delivering more and more content in innovative ways in EdTech. We just chose one for the purposes today of South Africa. I'm sorry, it's a little noisy. Someone's making a cappuccino nearby. So we chose one from South Africa. iExperience that's doing it. But there's a number two in Hitch, for example, is trying very hard. A Nigerian based in Waterloo who's working very hard to bring similar technology here to Nigeria. So very exciting to see what's going on in EdTech all around Nigeria. Ehealth, again, this is an area where it's not really possible to deliver healthcare using traditional methods. So if you think of developed countries, typically you would have one physician for 500 people physically seeing patients on that. That model is, sorry, I'm just going to decamp slightly. It's getting a little bit noisy here. So sorry, everyone. Just went to a session with my friends here on the. So it's not possible to deliver healthcare in a traditional way, in the way that it's delivered in developed nations on that, at the scale that we need and reaching all the communities we need to reach. So health tech is also something that's critically important as we go forward. I apologize for being slightly disruptive on that. So very exciting on that, and I really encourage startups. I've seen a number that have come to me and asked for my counsel in this area. I really encourage startups in health tech. If you remember from my introduction, I used to be president of a hospital. Of course, that hospital was run in a very traditional way, but would like to see more health tech startups in Africa. And one that I wanted to really highlight today, which is really exciting to me because it just also shows something else that's critical for us, is 54 Gene. So it's a startup based in Nigeria, but with US backing, but that collects African genetic code. And this to me is really critical because one of the things, of course, COVID highlights again, an immense gap in the work that's done in medical studies, different genetic makeup. So the way pharmaceuticals are developed, the way treatments are developed, are not developed appropriately for the African genetic code. So to see a company come and say, we're going to address this problem, to me is really, really exciting on there. And I'd like to see more of it. I do see from the US and Europe, there's more interest in creating things that are more appropriate for Africa in the healthcare system, including in mental health, which I'll talk about in a moment on that. But this company to me is very, very exciting on that. Agriculture, again, it's an area where we need technology to be able to achieve our goals on that. I mean, technology is played out across the whole value chain. Part of the issue with technology is also empowering farmers, so they have the information, they know where the markets are, they know that what they should be planting. We can use geospatial data to support them. Many companies are starting to do that. We see companies in Nigeria like Agromall, for example, which is just outstanding, who have the identity data and the geospatial data for hundreds of thousands of farmers, perhaps more at this particular point in time, and able to sort of solve the agricultural problem on that. So farm crowding is another one. So connecting the stakeholders together, using technology on that, it's been a great success story so far in Nigeria. I think it's going to go much further in the next few years on that. So let me stop the formal presentation there and just again kind of reiterate some of the key themes, I think, for me. I mean, as I said, there's no real successful path forward for Nigeria and Africa without embracing technology and using technology to solve our problems. But that said, I'm incredibly optimistic. I mean, one of the things I was listening to the previous session that really came out, I mean, I said a little bit earlier, I was also encouraged in Nigeria that we're seeing progress around the country. And even though this conference is about Lagos, it's very critical for Lagos to have other poles of prosperity, because we all understand the challenges in our Lagos of the physical infrastructure and attracting migrants to the city who don't necessarily have economic opportunities in other parts of the country. To the extent that we get prosperity in Kaduna, we get prosperity in Benin City, we get prosperity in Calabar, it actually helps Lagos and takes pressure off of that. But we're seeing more and more structures arise that can support the development of these companies, and includes the kind of innovation hubs, Eco Hub, for example, Eco Innovation in Lagos, which is a big part of this program, the AOT program on there. I mentioned before I would discuss briefly the new program that's coming, supported by the AFDB and the Office of the Vice President. It's a $500 million innovation program for Nigeria, which is going to expand the hubs and the cooperation with universities across Nigeria, which is very exciting. It's just getting finalized and will be rolled out in 2022 on that. There's more and more resources for young people to get involved and try the startups. And there's also more and more ability to connect Nigeria to the global value chain. So, I mean, I think one of the things that COVID has showed us, it's really stretched our thinking in terms of what can be done remotely on that. And of course, PwC wrote the paper a few years ago that pointed out that diaspora remittances were more important for the economic support of the country than even the oil industry on that. But we worry with the diaspora because, of course, the brain drain. So the question is, can we still export Nigerian brains without people leaving Nigeria? And we can see that there's just more and more opportunity to do it. So it's happening at an organized level. I'll cite Outsource Global, which is an amazing company founded by the Nigerian heroine Amal Hassan, who is created a company with 1,200 employees, 1,200 seats, doing business process outsourcing for UK and US companies. She's earning FX, or people are earning FX for the country. They're supporting their families, but they still live in Nigeria without having to leave the country. And I'm sure many of the people on our session today are either involved or will be involved soon in it being part of these global value chains, but where you remain in Nigeria to deliver that value. And I think that's one of the most exciting innovations for me, because it means we can earn the foreign exchange. We can solve our balance of payments issues. We can create good employment, whether it's in coding or business processing, outsourcing, or other high-end services for Nigerians to really advance the country. And of course, to the extent that we get bandwidth and connectivity throughout the country, again, these people don't all need to be in Lagos, and it's taking pressure off Lagos helps all of us. So that's a very exciting innovation to me. So when I take the combination of the startup ecosystem, so we've discussed ag tech, we've discussed clean tech, we've discussed fintech, we've discussed health tech. When I take the technology startup ecosystem, which is really starting to grow and emerge strongly in Nigeria, plus the opportunity for Nigerians to be inserted into global value chains because of the ability to remote work, coding for employment, other BPO type services. both of those things give me real optimism that we're kind of undergoing a technological revolution in Nigeria. And this concept of leapfrogging, which we all understand from mobile telephony, is going to be extended not just from the mobile phone, but also to all these other areas: education, healthcare, agriculture, etc. So I'm very optimistic. And I would encourage everyone participating today to think about both routes. Not everyone has to be an entrepreneur. Not everyone has to start their own company. But if you are going to start your own company, that's a fantastic path. You can fail, as I failed, and restart and rebuild. On the other hand, you can be a technology person that is inserted into a value chain, either within Nigeria or abroad, which makes a major contribution to the economy and earns a good living. Either path is fine. But overall, you can see how critical and central the technology and the technology skills of the young people in Nigeria are to the development of the country. So, as I said before, I'm so more optimistic now than I've ever been in the 13 years I've been here on that, and encourage all of you to kind of do the most to use your capacity to develop yourself and develop the nation. And finally, again, I'll kind of reiterate where I started, which is to encourage you all to do the eNaira. It's an incredible innovation. It puts Nigeria at the forefront. We should be embracing these things that really can improve, in this case, the payments, the cost of payments, the financial inclusion at the bottom of the pyramid. And it's just an example of financial innovation that's really suited for what we need. So let me stop there. I really appreciate having a chance to participate on this. I'll try to stop sharing my screen if I can figure out that technology.
We also appreciate you, Dr. Nevin. I think there are so many points that you mentioned, and thank you for reiterating our need to embrace technology. I think that's very important. And when these innovations come, we need to embrace it, like the eNaira. But you spoke about igniting start for economic growth in Africa. What really struck me about your presentation was the vast amount of examples that you gave. And as somebody who has an interest in EdTech, it was interesting to see you share so honestly about your journey. I think failure is something we don't talk about. Amazing, and also on social media, I'll find time to read the comments. Big thank you to everyone who's one of our corporate sponsors. Apologies for that little break in transmission. We'll be moving next to our next item on the agenda, which is a product talk from one of our sponsors, Piggy Best. To speak to us, we have the co-founder of